Live, right? There we go. Cool. All right, we're live. Marguerite, welcome to the show. This is now, I guess, officially a show now because we're doing this whole thing. Thanks for coming on, for talking to me today. I appreciate it. Welcome to everybody watching, and during and after the fact. Later on, it's going to be recorded and posted on YouTube. But yeah, Marguerite, you want to tell us a little more about yourself and who you are, how'd you got into what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is exciting. My first official live situation during COVID times. So my name is Margurette Awad, and I'm a marketing consultant, and I work with larger businesses and smaller businesses to help them create a strategy, but also get to the point of execution. I got my start, I guess about 13 years ago, and it actually started, I started blogging a lot. And then my first company found me, and they asked me to help them with their community development. And what that meant back in the day was identifying trends where things people were talking about, things that they wanted to be a part of the overall product and community. And I did that for about 6 years. And then I moved on to another role where I was helping to build community through content. And that was when I really dove into inbound marketing and content marketing. And it was about building a community so people understood the importance of sustainable transportation. After that gig, I now work in a company here in DC that focuses on social sports and events. And I help them bring in people and unite them both in person and digitally. I also work with small businesses to help them kickstart their marketing. So a lot of smaller business have what I like to call decision paralysis around how to get started in marketing, how to execute their strategy, how to even build a strategy. And that's kind of my sweet spot, is working with them because they're trying to create their own community for their brand and really appeal to their customers. So I help them with their content, with their strategy, and help them understand how they can speak to their specific audience.
That's awesome. No, that's great. So tell us, as you work with clients, as you work with folks, what are some of the things you see when you're working with the clients? Like the number one things that hold people back, right? The things you help them overcome, the challenges.
Yeah. So marketing is such a broad term, and there are so many different ways that you could be doing marketing. It can be social media marketing. It could be email marketing. It could be writing articles. So a lot of times people just don't even know where to start, or they're doing a whole bunch of things that aren't pushing their overall goal to something larger. So the biggest issue that I see is that they're not organized. And I know that sounds like such an easy thing. I mean, across the board, across life, whatever, but you really do. You have to organize what you're doing. You have to set a goal. You have to set a measurable goal to actually know if what you're doing is working to get you those customers, those clients, those reviews, those engagements on your social media, email opens. You can't just write and like throw it out there into the ether and then hope that it actually produces something. It has to be a calculated approach. So that's definitely the biggest issue that I see, especially when I start working with a new client. They're like, oh, I've been sending emails. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, tell me about the schedule. Tell me about the content. Tell me about, what your goal is. And they're like, oh no, I'm just sending emails. And I was like, oh, okay. That's a great start. It's a good starting point, but there's no like rhythm or rhyme to it. So you have to help them. Basically, you're helping them help the customer through their customer journey. And that's where getting organized and creating a strategy and building a strategy comes into place. And I know a strategy can sound overwhelming. I like to break it down as, think of like a New Year's resolution where you set a goal for yourself. And then you say, what are the 5 things I'm going to do this week or this month to get to that goal? And so you break that down. So say I want an open rate of 20%. Well, what are we actually going to do to get to that open rate of 20%? One of the tasks could be creating more engaging content. It could be analyzing our segments to make sure that we're actually talking to the right people. It could be looking at your content itself and finding out is this something that they want? So there's like, it's easy to create a strategy when you break it down into smaller bits.
Definitely. I mean, that reminds me of the SMART goals. I know we've talked about that before, like the specific, measurable, achievable. I've never been a fan of the achievable concept. It's more of like accountable. We talked about this as well. But when you're working with clients, I mean, like, so I know people talk about social media calendar and like these different things. I mean, these they sound really great, but where do people what do you want people to start? I mean, you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but with, for example, social media, because there's so many aspects of marketing, right? Like, where do you think the most energy is best invested in marketing? Do you want to people start with email marketing? Do you start with social media marketing? Do you start with paid ads? I mean, what do you recommend?
So the number one thing, so I do this with clients. I sit down and I talk them through a 90-day strategy of like what you're actually going to accomplish in the first 30 days and then what happens in the next 60 and then 90. And when I do that, I do it both so they have the foundation, but then also so it is streamlined and they can like jump right into it. So one of the very first things that needs to happen is you need to analyze your platforms. You need to actually know where your audience is coming from to get to your site, to get to your product. Is it social media? Is it, and which social media? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Or is it email? And you need to have that set up in Google Analytics so you can know. Is it your website? Are people just Googling you? What search terms are they actually using to Google you? I mean, you'd be surprised how people come across like your web page. I remember working with a transportation client and the keywords that people were using were so redundant. I was like, that doesn't make sense. Why would people be doing that? But it's not how I search it. It's how the masses search it. So you have to know what platforms are actually delivering your customers to you. That's step one. So you start there. And then once you know, you're like, oh, well, email is actually our revenue driver, but social is great for awareness or vice versa. And then that's where you hone in on your campaign style or what you are going to deliver on a daily basis. The second part of that I also run in the first month for a 90-day strategy is actually analyzing your audience. If you don't know who your audience is, and I'm not talking like your base demographics, your age, your gender, I'm talking about like location, why they actually choose to buy a product, like what moves them from awareness to conversion, like what is the point, what is the tipping point for them to buy your product. I'm talking about the things, the additional things that are like your product where they spend money with you, and then figuring out from there like who they are as a person. I actually just published this because I don't know that a lot of marketers dive into like sorry, let me just do a small rewind. I studied professional writing and rhetoric in college. And from that, I learned how to appeal to a certain audience based on the ethical, logical, and like the emotional approach. And so it's everything from like what that customer likes, but it's also how they talk to each other. And it's how they, like why they choose to buy it because of the way it makes them feel, not just like the logical approach to it. So I like to do that same breakdown for a client. And a lot of people use like Aristotle's persuasive writing techniques and those like content pillars to build out their brand, but they don't apply the same pillars to the audience. So it's like, oh, this is why I want to buy food from this restaurant. But then it's talking about like why they want to, you know, like what type of customers they're looking to attract. So knowing your audience and like really diving deep into what brings them joy and how you speak to them is also equally important to knowing where your customers are coming from. Sorry, I feel like I rambled there, but it was a really important part.
No, absolutely not. I think that was, I don't think it was rambling at all. I think it was extremely important information. That's something a lot of people don't do. They don't take the time to drill down into the audience and really understand them, right? Understand what motivates them. You know, what gets up in the morning, what gets them moving, what are they going after, right? When they're looking for products or services to purchase, right? They're not necessarily looking to make a purchase. They're looking to solve a problem, right? And so that a lot of people don't get that whole price, that whole concept of things, right? And then they get into pricing. That's when they kind of trip over themselves. And it's like, oh, I can't possibly, you know, do this or whatever. I mean, you think about what you said in terms of knowing your audience. the reason that Apple is so successful is because they know their audience and they play to their audience, right? I mean, you take this, they probably spend millions of dollars just on audience targeting and focusing on knowing their audience, drilling down into who their audience actually is. I used to do website design as a project manager for a while and doing IT work. Obviously, I'm Indian, so this is in my blood. But one of the things we used to do was a very important step is knowing your audience, creating this what we call personas, right, of our audience, right? You give them a name, you give them like a personality, like a whole life, like like Bob gets up in the morning. He's a 37-year-old graphic designer. He gets up in the morning, he goes straight to his home office, and then 3 days a week he goes to the main office. He drives to work. It's amazing levels of detail you can get into, but these things matter because as you're creating the workflow of what you're doing, that's the marketing piece is so intricately woven into that work, which it's huge. That's huge to mention that. So I don't think you rambled at all. I think I rambled just now, but that's
no, it's
cool.
great. I was going to say, I actually take that one step further. So, and I apply like language and semantics to it. So when you find out who your key persona is, so it's Bob that works in construction and he likes beer and wings on the weekend and he hangs out with his kids, he's divorced. How does he actually process information? How does he consume media? And that's where I think that I'm a little bit different in my approach. I go to that source. So wherever he is, I go and then I sit and I watch how Bob, your ideal customer, interacts with other people and interacts with other sites that are selling a similar product. So you can build that competitive edge. So as an example, like a lot of the work I do is geared towards Gen Z. And I wrote about this as well. Like I spend 90% of my time on TikTok, but I spend it in the comments and I watch how they talk to each other. I pick up their language. I use their language for them because when they see me using their words in their sentences, it's a trigger to them. They're like, oh, that person's like us. Like, I want to see what they're selling. I want to see like how they're presenting or like, what do they have? Because it's similar because people are drawn to what's similar to them. So I take those personas and then I learn more at that. I don't know if it's like the intellectual level, because I don't know if you can say like the way we talk to each other is, or the way, like Gen Z and we all talk to each other in comments is truly intellectual, but you are finding a way that you're building that communication bridge through that. And that's why, like, when I work with clients, I'm like, yeah, I know this ad copy, it's gonna, like, it slaps, or like it's gonna hit, or like, no, that one's gonna fail because it's just not quite right. It doesn't fit who you're actually trying to attract and reach. And so I think you got to persona, yes, is number one, but then learn how they talk to each other and then be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, no, I mean, language is extremely important. I mean, one of the things that they teach us in coach when we learn how to coach, and one of the basic things in coaching is mirroring your client, right? To make sure that the client is actually understanding what you're saying and vice versa. You use their language as much as possible because that helps them process. It helps you understand them better so you can better coach them, right? So you can actually help them to solve their problems much better. That's awesome. So for business owners who are starting out, a lot of people who watch these things, I mean, I think you talked about kind of where to start, that kind of thing. For folks who are having those struggles, right? Who maybe they're getting information overload, or they're getting, they hear all these different strategies online of like, how do you market this? Oh, here's a million ads about marketing, about how you should be marketing your business. What do you tell those folks, the ones who kind of have that, like you said, you mentioned they have like the analysis paralysis in marketing, right?
Yeah.
How do you help them kind of sort through the garbage to get where they need to get to?
So if they haven't done anything, like if they haven't looked at their audiences, if they haven't looked at their platform, my best piece of advice is just do something. Like if you feel you're great at writing emails, go for it. If you feel you are great at creating Instagram stories, go for it. Because at least you're doing something. You can refine that as you go. Like as you build out more, as you gain more information about who your customer is, you can refine and change it. I'm going to do like one side tangent is like a lot of marketers, they build a strategy and then they keep it and they never change it. I work in the mindset that strategy should always be a living document. It should be something that you are analyzing weekly, monthly, every 6 months, quarterly, to make sure that it's actually getting you the results that you want. Because if you let it go too long, then you've kind of just wasted your time.
Yep.
So for clients that have done some preliminary work and they know where they want to be, pick one concept and go. You don't have to be everywhere and you don't have to do everything. And I know so many people think that is where, and that is what marketing is. Like, they're like, oh no, I have to be on social. I have to be on Google. You add it in as you get better. And as you like quicken your process and as you're creating more content, you're going to learn. I think it's the Gary Vee style, where it's like you create one piece of content and then you duplicate that 70 times across the internet. Like, you're going to get better at it. So no analysis, start with what you're good at. Yet some analysis, start with one thing that you know is going to bring in your customer, and then multiply. Don't try to do it all at once.
Love that. That's awesome. And that does, yeah. I mean, Gary Vee, I love some of his stuff. I don't agree with everything he says, but he has got some great stuff. That was one of the things, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, leverage what you already do. We got a question from the audience here. It's how do you determine who's there just to chat and who's buying in? So the consumer versus the commentator or spectator, right?
Let me think about this one. How do you determine who's there just to chat and who's there? Well, your customers so going back to content marketing, you create content to draw people in and to bring them along the journey. I think people that are there just to comment, and I don't know if you mean trolls or just there to learn, they're probably not ready to move along in their journey anyway. People that are further along and are moving from the point of awareness, they're starting to question more. They're like, do I want this product? Do I not? You create those types of content that they will move to. If someone is just there to spectate, either just to comment or troll, they're probably not going to move in your journey with you in terms of the content. Ones that want and are ready to convert will be moving to those pieces of content because their interest is piqued more. They're like, oh, well, if I buy this product, what is the advantage over this tier or that tier? Or why would I choose this one over that one? Whereas if you're just presenting your product or presenting what you're sharing and they're like, oh, this is cool, they're not who you are ready to purchase. So you do want to create content for customers at every point of the journey. But when you're trying to bring them along, you want to make sure, you want to look at who's commenting further in your funnel, and those are the ones you go after. I hope that answered it.
Nice. Yeah. I'm Sage can reply and let us know if that answers the question. I'm just going to add on a little bit to that. It's kind of a thing that I tell folks. A lot of times I have worked with a lot of clients, a lot of coaches who are sometimes worried about giving too much away for free. Right. And am I just giving everything away for free? And, when you are in the subject matter expertise field, the natural inclination is I want to hold stuff back so that people don't take my stuff and just run away. Right. Mm-hmm. I would err on the other side. I mean, I'd say just and this is kind of one thing also I agree with Gary Vee on, which is just give it away. Not everything, obviously, but just be free answering questions. Right. At the end of the day, if the person is able to take what you've given them and implement it on their own, they probably weren't your client anyway. Mm-hmm. Right. They probably weren't your demographic. The folks who want to have the conversation and just learn and absorb, most of those folks in that range, they just want to learn more about it. One, to make sure that you know what you're talking about and that you're actually an expert in the field. Two, because they want to try to implement on their own, and they may succeed, they may not. And then three, if they have someone to come back to you, you'll be the one to come back to, right? When they need the help to implement and move forward, because they can know that, okay, this person's there. I know that they're not trying to get my money. Right. They're actually really there to help me. And I want to give them my business at the end of the day because they gave me the help that got me where I am right now. Mm-hmm. And to get further past this, I need their help. Right. Yeah.
I actually give away my strategies for free. It's the behind the scenes work. It's the willingness to put in the hours that it takes to, pull a competitive analysis, to really dive in. Like, anybody can create their own strategy. I think that's great. And I think they should. But it's if they need help on the analysis or how do I get to the next level, then that is where, the experts come in. And that is where you hire someone to help you. You get to a point where just doing the small tasks aren't enough. Like just the execution of all of it isn't enough. You have to be in the details, but then you also have to have that big picture thought process of like, okay, what next though? And that is where someone in the field in this like that has a brain that works that way can totally help you. Another reason to hire a subject matter expert is so you don't have to focus on that. So you can focus on what you're actually good at in your business, which is maybe it's going out and meeting people. Maybe it's the product itself, that product development. And you don't have to do everything. I think that is like for small businesses, that is one of the biggest pitfalls. They feel like they have to do everything, but you're not good at everything. You can't be good at everything.
Right. Yeah. And you get caught up, your energy gets pulled in so many different directions. Yes. And that's how you exhaust and burn yourself out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're trying to do everything all the time. And at the end of the day, yeah, if you're going to save a couple bucks, but you're going to lose all your energy, all your time. And that's how you create a job for yourself, not a business. Right. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, why? Right. Like you have these resources, like you make use of them. I mean, and it's one thing to do something. Anyone can do something, but to do it well requires expertise. And that's where you come in, right? Like someone like you, or like, again, like I always give the plumbing example because it's an easy one, right? Like you got a pipe that's clogged. Yes, you could buy a snake and do it yourself, but why? Right? Like what if it's not just the snake issue? What if it's a lot deeper and more complicated than that? And you don't know how to diagnose that. You don't know the ins and outs, the intricacies, little distinctions here. Like, oh, if it's clogged plus something else that you didn't know before, it may be a lot more serious and you could do more damage. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So that's where the subject matter expert comes in and helps you. And actually, you can actually make real progress much quicker by just paying a couple extra bucks and then getting it done. Like, yeah. So that's something I try to stress to folks as much as possible. When I made that realization myself, because I would be that guy. I was that guy a couple years ago who I'm going to do it myself. I'd save money. I'll save $200 and spend 40 hours doing something.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I spent 40 hours teaching myself how to build a website. Was that worth it? Like,
yeah, I mean, I understand budget constraints 100%. Of
course.
But there's so much like people wanting to be a part of the process, wanting to help you for free, or like I said, like all my strategies, they're out there for free. There's so many marketers that are giving away their stuff for free. It's like, yeah, you can, if you just engage that little bit, but yeah, it depends like where you're at in your business and how far you're ready to like leap forward in terms of that, of like whether working with a subject matter expert is the right call in that moment. But yeah, totally. I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tire that out.
Yeah. It's so for folks who may be like kind of on the fence and not really know like where to go next, like what's the like the line, or like the kind of general, there's a question I tend to ask people, like where do they know, okay, I need to go hire Margurette. I got to figure out where, how do I know I need to hire Margurette now versus I've done enough on my own to kind of lay the groundwork. I've done as much as I can do without having expertise. Like where's that kind of, is there a line, right? Or where is that kind of that mm-hmm. distinction for you?
So I think there is a line. I think if assuming that people are tracking their metrics, it's when they stall out. And oftentimes that is they've reached their peak. Are you not gaining any more followers? Is your lead generation stalling? Like, you've built or you've gathered all the people that you possibly can from your referrals, but you're not getting any new clients. Your email open rates are declining. Yeah. So it could be a stall out or a decline. So like if your marketing is moving backwards, I would say that's when it's time to hire me, or a subject matter expert that you feel matches your style. And I add that last part because I was actually working with a client last week, and she said to me, she goes, I just love how much you understand me. And that's part of my process, is that I dive in and going back to the language, like, because I had to ghostwrite a fair amount of copy for her. And she's like, oh, I love it. It sounds just like me. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. That's my job. So I would say like find a marketer that you do vibe with and that you feel not only just understands your product. I mean, anybody can learn about a product, but understands your mission, understands your values, and wants to be a part of it with you. But yeah, so when your marketing starts to slide and it's not moving forward, or if you still have graphics from like 2017, it's time to reach out.
That's huge. Style and the how you gel with the person is huge, right? Like I stress that as well with my clients and with people, potential clients too. Like if it's not a good fit, it's not going to good fit. I'll refer them to somebody else just because like, look, I don't think you're not going to get the most value out of this interaction, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I could help you, but how much am I really going to be able to help you versus someone who really matches your style and is able to work with you on the same level? Like if you guys gel with somebody, the amount of work you can do is going to accelerate and go through the roof, right? So that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. And it's good to know like what your marketer is actually skilled in if you are going to hire them. I do a lot, but I also know what my weaknesses are. And then I have other people that I can connect with and be like, you know what, here's an opportunity. I'd love to bring you in. And, you know, it's raising everyone up at the same time, and it's playing on everyone's strengths instead of, it's that, what was the mentality you said, like the hoarding mentality?
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that. Like I would rather share it, and because it's only going to be better for the client in the long run. And then, you know, their glowing review is what's going to help build your business.
Awesome. Fantastic. So as we're coming to the close here, what are some last minute thoughts you have for folks, like last minute things that you think that is important for them to know about you or about marketing in general, things that they can do for themselves?
There is a lot you can do for yourself. Let's see. Ask all the questions, like ask the hard questions, like why am I not getting more clients? Reevaluate your own goals. You know, what do you actually want? Do you want revenue, or do you want awareness, or you know, really thinking about what is important to you and your business. Find the marketer that fits in that. Make sure that you're, you know, take a look at their portfolio, to ask to speak with other clients that they've worked with. Use it as a referral basis. But yeah, I guess about me, I really love working with women entrepreneurs and people of color to help elevate their businesses. But I'm drawn to people that have similar values and similar goals as myself. So that's probably where I sit in my world. But always looking to work with new people and to learn about what they're trying to do as well.
Awesome. So Margurette, how do people reach out to you? What's the best way to get in touch with you? And we'll put all the information in the description of the video below, but tell us how you prefer people to get in touch with you.
So you can visit my website or drop an email. My website and my email are my name. I know it's a doozy, but I think it's so important to learn people's names. It's Margurette Awad. So my website is marguretteawad.com. My email is marguerite.awad@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's Mags Awad. It's a little bit shorter just because it's social. Yeah, you guys are going to drop it all in there, but there's lots of ways to find me. And I'm pretty much the only Margurette Awad in Google. I Google myself regularly, so I know.
Hey, you're not the only one. I have a Google alert for my name, so I see when things post. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, cool. Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, Margurette, thanks so much for coming on the show today. I think you gave some amazing value to folks who were able to watch. Thank you guys for joining, the audience members who came in and asked questions. Mike, Sage, I know some other folks joined at certain points, but thank you guys for joining us. This is going to be posted on YouTube after the fact, so if you guys want to watch it, please feel free to. Also, reach out to Margurette if you have questions about marketing, about where to get started. She can, like she said, she has a lot of free resources she can refer you to, and yeah, she's a fantastic resource. I can speak from experience. So thank you guys for joining.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, happy to do a one-on-one with anyone that's just like, where am I going wrong? What do I do next? That's a free source that I offer. And if you feel it's a fit for us to work together further, great. If not, or if you know something else that you're looking for, I can offer the referral. So
awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. So please take advantage of that, folks. If you're curious about marketing, even if you already have marketing stuff you're doing, like she said, she'd be a great person to talk to. So thank you guys all for joining us today. And thanks for watching, folks who watch it after the fact. If you like the video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe to get notified, and please leave a comment below. Any questions you have, leave a comment. Feel free to reach out to Margurette or myself, and happy to talk with you guys more. Thanks again, Margurette, and thank you all, and take care.
Absolutely. Thank you.